Now, what I have on the table are piles of books, and every book on this pile is a book that has to deal with our theme of insects or bugs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to begin to take our labels and then put them on our piles of books. Okay. If you were in the classroom with me right now, I'd let you make the decisions and you could peruse through the books, but unfortunately that's not going to be possible today. So we're going to start with the books that are fiction, and our first kind of fiction is our fantasy fiction. And our fantasy fiction belongs with this pile of books right here. And these are books, again, that are made up, and I'm going to just browse through the titles for you. So, Quick as a Cricket, Itsy Bitsy Spider, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Crickwing, Clara Caterpillar, another version of the Itsy Bitsy Spider, There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly, Charlie the Caterpillar, The Caterpillow Fight, a different version of an I Know an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly, The Very Ugly Bug, When the Fly Flew In, Manuelo the Playing Mantis, Mr. Bumble, I Wish I Were a Butterfly, Hey Little Ant, and An Ant's Day Off. So again, all those books are fantasy. They're made up. They could not happen. And they're just for enjoyment most of the time. So that's our fantasy genre. Our next genre, which usually has a big following, but it does not when it comes to bugs today, is realistic fiction. And Terry and the Caterpillars is our only realistic fiction book today. It's a story about a little girl and she's catching bugs. So you can see how it's made up, but it could happen. Children do that all the time. Then our last category of fiction today is folktale. And our folktale pile is right there. And we have two traditional folktales. One is Why Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ears, and Anansi Does the Impossible. And there are many books in the Anansi series. It's about a spider. Okay, so that's folktales. All of the stories we just talked about are fiction. Now moving over to our definite nonfiction, we have our narrative nonfiction. And these are books that are very much up and coming. We didn't see nonfiction look like this a long time ago. And what we have for narrative nonfiction are books that really sound like stories, but that's definitely all true. So we have Ladybugs, Fiery Red, Fiery and Bright, Fireflies in the Night, and I just read this with my daughter. And it's so interesting. It's a story. It's all full of information, but it's about a grandfather, and it's a true story, and how fireflies came to be. Okay. Then we have two easy readers, Butterfly and What Do You See? They're both told like a story. And last, A Butterfly's Life. So they're narrative, so they sound like stories, but they're full of information, and we call this narrative nonfiction. Now, the traditional nonfiction that you may be used to when you do research or when you were a child is just called informational or nonfiction texts. And we have a pile of those right here. Those are our informational books today. And our informational books are The Ladybug and Other Insects. And you can see again, it's just giving lots of information. We have The Mysterious Mantis, Butterflies and Caterpillars, True and False, The World of Praying Mantises, Hungry Insect Heroes, and Bugs. Okay. The books on this pile traditionally have a table of contents. They have an index or a glossary in the back, and that's traditional informational books. Now, left over is our mixed bunch, and so I'll show you where they fall today. In the area of math, we have a pile, the Icky Bug Counting Book, so that's more of an informational book. We have the Best Bug Parade, which is about sizes. Now this one tells like a story and looks like a story, but it's using the word small. Sorry, it's windy. I am big. I am bigger than you. I am the biggest bug by far. Big, bigger, biggest. So it's still informational. And then 100 Hungry Ants, which we already discussed today. We have one alphabet bug book. And this alphabet bug book is our antics book that we already looked at. And this is actually just a fiction book with good vocabulary. It's not going to be teaching any information. Under the category or genre of poetry, we have two piles today. We have a fiction pile and a nonfiction pile. The Little Buggers, Insect and Spider poems are fictional poems about bugs, just for fun. And then we have Encyclopedia, which is poetry about bugs, and it teaches facts, so it is informational and belongs in the nonfiction side. And our last category is that informational fiction that we talked about, how you take a fiction story and you add information so it is true. And I just wanted to share that informational fiction and narrative nonfiction are very similar, but informational fiction is made up, and so it definitely has that fiction piece to it. Magic School Bus, Inside a Beehive, and Ants in the Pants are both completely made up fantasy stories, but if you haven't seen a Magic School Bus, they have sidebars that teach information. Right here. So, and the last one is Lois Ehlert, which is an author that always has a fiction story. So this is Waiting for Wings. In the front of the book is just a fiction story. And then in the back we have almost like a glossary, but this is identifying butterflies. What is a butterfly? How does a butterfly begin its life? How does a butterfly eat? So there's a complete nonfiction section inside the books. So once in a while the Lois Ehlert's books are narrative nonfiction, but most of them fall into that informational fiction label. So I hope our sort was not too confusing for you today. Again, get out to the bookstore, get out to the library, start pulling books off the shelves, and see if you can begin identifying what is fiction and what is nonfiction. Great job today.